The first thing Zara saw when they dropped out of warp was smoke rising from her homeworld. Thick black clouds covered half the planet's surface, and the beautiful green forests she remembered were now brown and scarred. She pressed her hands against the observation deck window, her claws leaving small scratches in the metal frame. "They burned everything," she whispered, her voice breaking. Jake stood beside her, watching the sensor readings with growing anger. The 6 ships in orbit were massive industrial vessels designed for strip mining operations. They had been systematically destroying the planet's surface to extract valuable minerals and rare elements. "There," Communications Officer Amy Foster called from her station. "I'm picking up faint signals from the northern continent. Could be survivors." Captain Hayes studied the tactical display with grim determination. The Raider ships are spread out across the system. 3 in orbit, 2 near the mining facilities, and 1 patrolling the outer edge. What's the plan? Security Chief Ben Carter asked. "We can't fight them all at once," Commander Jackson said, "but we might be able to pick them off one at a time." Zara turned away from the window, and Jake saw something he hadn't seen before. The gentle, kitten-like behavior was gone, replaced by the fierce warrior they had first encountered. But this was different. This wasn't fear or panic. This was cold, calculated rage. "I know these ships," Zara said, her voice steady and dangerous. "The mining vessels are slow and lightly armed. The patrol ship will be faster, but carries fewer weapons. If we disable their communications first, we can attack before they can coordinate a response." "You want to fight?" Captain Hayes asked. "I want my people free," Zara replied. "And I want these raiders to pay for what they've done to my world." The plan they developed was risky but clever. The Starbound would approach the outer patrol ship using a fake distress signal. While the raiders were distracted, Zara would use her knowledge of their ship designs to help target their most vulnerable systems. "Remember," Captain Hayes told the crew over the intercom, "we're not here to start a war. We're here to rescue survivors and drive off the raiders. Once we've accomplished that, we leave." The first attack went perfectly. The patrol ship responded to their distress signal, dropping its shields to conduct a scan. The Starbound's weapons disabled the raider, vessel's engines and communications before they could react. Without power or the ability to call for help, the patrol ship was effectively neutralized. 1 down, 5 to go, Ben Carter reported. The second target was a mining ship near the planet's southern pole. This time, they used a different approach. Engineer Tony Walsh had modified the ship's sensors to emit a signal that would overload the raiders' navigation systems. The mining vessel found itself flying blind, unable to maintain orbit or coordinate with the other ships. "Their captain is trying to signal the others," Amy reported. "But the interference is blocking all communications." "Good," Captain Hayes said. "Take out their weapons and leave them drifting." But as they approached the third ship, everything went wrong. The raiders had finally figured out what was happening and were ready for them. The Starbound found itself facing 3 enemy vessels at once, all with weapons armed and shields raised. "We're outnumbered," Commander Jackson reported as enemy fire began hitting their shields. Shields down to 60% and falling. "Evasive maneuvers," the captain ordered. "Try to keep them from surrounding us." The battle was fierce and chaotic. The Starbound was faster and more maneuverable than the raider ships, but it was also heavily outnumbered. Jake found himself thrown against the wall as the ship shook under enemy fire. "Shields failing," Ben reported. "We need to do something fast." That's when Zara made her move. She had been studying the enemy ships throughout the battle, looking for weaknesses only someone from her world would know. "The lead ship," she called out over the noise of battle. "It's using stolen Keth-era technology. I know how to disable it." "How?" Captain Hayes asked. Get me within range of their communications. Array, I can send a shutdown code that will overload their main systems. That means getting very close to a ship that's trying to kill us, Commander Jackson pointed out. I can do it, Amy said from her station. If Zara can give me the code, I can boost our signal strength and transmit it. The maneuver was dangerous and desperate. The Starbound had to fly directly toward the enemy flagship while taking heavy fire. Jake watched the shield readings drop to critical levels as they closed the distance. Now, Zara shouted, her claws flying over Amy's console as she input the shutdown sequence. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The Raider flagship's lights went out, its weapons fell silent, and it began drifting helplessly through space. The two remaining ships, seeing their leader disabled, decided they had had enough. They broke off the attack and fled toward the edge of the system. Let them go, Captain Hayes ordered as Ben prepared to pursue. We came here to rescue survivors, not fight a war. The planet's surface was worse than the orbital scans had suggested. Entire continents had been strip-mined down to bare rock. The great forests Zara remembered were nothing but ash and stumps. But in the northern mountains, they found what they were looking for. Life signs, Amy reported excitedly. Hundreds of them, hidden in cave systems beneath the mountains. The rescue operation took 3 days. The surviving Cathera had been living underground since the raiders arrived, surviving on stored food and water from hidden springs. They were thin and scared, but they were alive. Jake watched Zara reunite with her people and saw the gentle side of her personality emerge again. She moved among the survivors like a mother caring for her children, treating wounds, offering comfort, and organizing the evacuation. How many? Jake asked as the last group was brought aboard. 347, Zara replied, exhaustion clear in her voice. Out of thousands who lived here before. It's more than we hoped for, Jake said gently. And it's enough to rebuild. The survivors were grateful, but wary of the human crew. They had learned to distrust anyone who wasn't Cathera. But they trusted Zara, and Zara trusted the humans, so they gradually began to relax. Where will you take us? Asked Korath, one of the elder survivors. There's a world 3 systems away, Captain Hayes explained through Zara's translation. Uninhabited, but suitable for your species. Earth has already agreed to provide supplies and protection while you establish a new colony. And you will stay with us? Korath asked Zara. Zara looked at Jake, then back at her people. I will help you get settled, she said. But my place is aboard this ship now. These humans are my pack, my family. I cannot abandon them. Some of the older Cathera looked disapproving, but the younger ones seemed to understand. They had seen how the humans treated Zara, and how she had changed under their care. Besides, Zara added with something that might have been a smile, someone needs to teach these humans proper healing techniques. Their medical knowledge is adequate, but they have much to learn. Jake laughed. Is that your professional opinion, Dr. Zara? It is, she replied seriously, then spoiled the effect by making that soft purring sound that had become so familiar. The new colony was established on a world the Cathera named New Forest. It had tall trees and clean streams, much like their original home. The survivors threw themselves into building their new lives with determination and hope. Zara spent 2 months, helping establish the medical facilities and training young Cathera in both traditional and human healing methods. Jake worked alongside her, learning techniques that human medicine had never considered. You're sure about this? Zara asked Jake on their last night on the planet. You could stay here. My people would welcome you. I'm sure, Jake replied. My place is aboard the Starbound, just like yours. We're explorers, Zara. There are more people out there who need help. More wounded beings to heal? Always. When the Starbound left New Forest, Zara stood on the observation deck watching her people's new home fade into the distance. Jake joined her, as he always did. "Any regrets?" he asked. "None," Zara said firmly. "My people are safe and rebuilding. I have found a new purpose and a new family. What more could I ask for?" Jake smiled and put his arm around her shoulders. "How about the next adventure?" Zara's answering purr was answer enough. Outside the windows, the stars beckoned with infinite possibilities, carrying a human ship and its remarkable crew toward whatever wonders and challenges awaited them in the vast galaxy. The fierce alien warrior had indeed become something gentler, but she had never stopped being strong. She had simply learned that true strength sometimes meant allowing others to care for you, and caring for others in return. 2 weeks into the journey toward Zara's homeworld, Jake noticed the first strange behavior. He was eating lunch in the mess hall when he felt someone watching him. He looked up to find Zara standing in the doorway, her amber eyes fixed on him, with an intensity that would have been frightening from anyone else. "Everything okay?" Jake asked, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. Zara approached slowly and sat down, but she didn't say anything. She just watched him eat with that same focused attention. When Jake finished his meal and got up to leave, Zara followed him. "Going somewhere specific?" Jake asked as they walked down the corridor. "Where you go," Zara replied simply. Jake stopped walking. "Are you following me?" "Yes." "Why?" Zara tilted her head, considering the question. "Safe," she said finally. "You feel safe." From that day forward, Zara became Jake's shadow. She maintained a respectful distance, usually staying about 10 feet behind him, but she was always there. When Jake reported for his shift in the medical bay, Zara would curl up in the corner with a book Amy had given her. When Jake went to the observation deck to watch the stars, Zara would find a spot nearby and sit quietly. The crew found it amusing at first. Security Chief Ben Carter made jokes about Jake having a bodyguard. Engineer Tony Walsh said it reminded him of his childhood dog, who used to follow his father everywhere. But as the days passed, they began to see something else in Zara's behavior. "She's not guarding you," Captain Hayes observed one evening. "She's seeking comfort from your presence." Jake had noticed it too, whenever he sat down to read or work. On reports, Zara would find the nearest patch of sunlight and settle into it. Her eyes would drift closed, and she would make a soft rumbling sound that he had learned was the Keth-era equivalent of purring. "It's actually kind of endearing," Jake admitted. "Like having a very large, very dangerous cat following me around." The most remarkable change happened during Jake's off-duty hours. When he went to the ship's small gym to exercise, Zara would watch from the doorway with obvious curiosity. After several days of this, Jake finally invited her to join him. "Want to try it?" he asked, gesturing to the equipment. Zara approached one of the weight machines cautiously. Her natural strength and reflexes made her a natural athlete. But what surprised Jake was how graceful she was. Every movement was fluid and controlled, like a dancer or martial artist. "Your people must be naturally athletic," Jake observed, as Zara easily lifted weights that would challenge most humans. "All Keth-era train in movement arts from childhood," Zara explained between exercises. "Strength, speed, balance. It keeps us healthy and helps us survive in the forest." "Forest? My world is mostly trees. Very tall trees that grow close together. We build our homes in the branches and travel by jumping from tree to tree." "That explains the powerful leg muscles," Jake said, "and why you can leap so far." Zara demonstrated by jumping clear across the small gym in a single bound. She landed silently, barely disturbing the air around her. "Show off," Jake said with a grin. For the first time since he had known her, Zara smiled back. It transformed her face completely, making her look younger and less fierce. The crew gradually warmed up to their new member. Navigator Chris Miller discovered that Zara had an excellent sense of direction and could spot navigation errors that the computer missed. Communications Officer Amy Foster enjoyed teaching. Zara knew words and learning about Kethera culture in return. Even Security Chief Ben Carter began to appreciate Zara's presence, especially after she helped him with a difficult repair job. Her claws could reach into spaces too small for human hands, and her enhanced senses could detect problems that instruments couldn't find. "She's actually pretty useful," Ben admitted to Jake one evening. "And she hasn't tried to kill anyone in over a week." "She never wanted to kill anyone," Jake replied. "She was just scared and protecting herself." The most touching moment came during Jake's third week aboard ship. He had been working long shifts trying to analyze some unusual medical data when he suddenly felt dizzy and feverish. He tried to push through it, but his body had other plans. He collapsed at his desk, burning up with fever. When Jake woke up, he found Zara sitting beside his bed in the medical bay. She had a cool cloth in her hands and was gently wiping his forehead. Her amber eyes were full of concern. "How long was I out?" Jake asked weakly. 6 hours, Zara replied. "You have infection. I gave you medicine." Jake looked around and saw that Zara had somehow managed to operate the medical equipment. The 4 in his arm was perfectly placed, and the monitors showed his vital signs were improving. "You know how to use human medical technology?" "I watched you for weeks," Zara said. "I learned. Healing is healing, even with different tools." Jake felt a warm feeling spread through his chest. "That had nothing to do with the fever. You took care of me." "Yes, like you took care of me." Zara stayed with him for the entire recovery period, bringing him food and water, adjusting his medications, and making sure he rested properly. She even sang to him sometimes, those haunting Kethera melodies that seemed to ease his pain. "Your people have a saying," Zara told him on his second day of recovery. "Scars shared are bonds forged." It means that when someone helps heal your wounds, you become connected to them. Connected how? Like family, like pack. They become important to your survival and happiness. Jake understood. "Is that how you feel about us? About me?" "Yes," Zara said simply. "You are my pack now." As Jake recovered, the ship's sensors detected something troubling. They were still 3 days away from Kethera homeworld, but long range. Scans showed unusual activity in the system. Captain Hayes called a meeting in the briefing room. Zara attended, sitting close to Jake as always. "What we're seeing doesn't look good," the captain began, activating the main display. "There are at least 6 large ships in orbit around your world, Zara. The energy signatures suggest military vessels." Zara's ears flattened against her head. "The raiders returned. It looks that way. We're also detecting structures on the planet's surface that weren't there before. Possibly mining operations or processing facilities." "They're strip mining our world," Zara said, her voice tight with anger. "Taking everything valuable and leaving poison behind." Commander Jackson leaned forward. "The question is, what do we do about it? We're 1 ship against 6, and they're heavily armed. We report it to Earth Command and wait for reinforcements," Security Chief Carter suggested. "That could take months," Jake protested. "If there are survivors down there, they need help now." "Jake's right," Zara said. "But I understand if you cannot risk your ship and crew for my people. You have already done more than enough." Captain Hayes was quiet for a long moment, studying the sensor data. "There might be another option. These raiders are probably slavers, not military. They'll be focused on quick profits, not sustained fighting. If we're smart about it, we might be able to cause enough trouble to drive them off." "That's a big risk," Ben warned. "Sometimes big risks are worth taking," the captain replied. Besides, Zara is part of this crew now. We don't abandon our own. Jake saw tears form in Zara's amber eyes. In the weeks since joining the crew, she had slowly been learning what it meant to be part of a family again. Thank you, she whispered. All of you. As the ship continued toward her homeworld, Zara spent more time on the observation deck, staring at the stars ahead. Jake often joined her there, sitting quietly beside her as she processed the possibility of seeing her world again. Scared? Jake asked during one of these sessions. Terrified, Zara admitted, but also hopeful. If even a few of my people survived, it will be worth any risk. We'll find them, Jake said confidently, and we'll help them rebuild. Zara leaned against his shoulder, that soft purring sound rumbling in her chest. My people have another saying. The strongest trees grow where the storms are fiercest. Maybe we will be stronger after this. Jake put his arm around her, surprised by how natural the gesture felt. Maybe we all will. Outside the observation deck windows, the stars ahead grew brighter as they approached Cathera space. Whatever they found there, they would face it together. As a crew, as a family, as beings who had learned that kindness could overcome fear and trust could heal even the deepest wounds. The breakthrough in communication came on Jake's fourth day of treating the alien. She had been watching him work at the medical console when she suddenly spoke a single word in English. Jake, she said, her voice rough but clear. Jake turned. Around so quickly, he nearly knocked over his coffee. You know my name? The alien nodded slowly. Jake, she repeated, then pointed to herself. Zara. Zara, Jake said, testing the name. That's beautiful. Is that what Cathera means? No, Zara replied, shaking her head. Cathera is ... people, my people. Zara is ... me. Her English was broken and heavily accented, but Jake could understand her clearly. Amy's translation software had been running constantly, building a vocabulary database from everything Zara said. The alien had apparently been listening and learning faster than anyone realized. How long have you understood us? Jake asked, pulling his chair closer to her bed. Since day 2, Zara admitted, looking slightly embarrassed. Amy's machine helps, your words. Similar to old tongue from my world. Jake felt a mix of surprise and admiration. While they had been treating her like she couldn't understand anything, she had been quietly learning their language and studying their behavior. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Trust is difficult, Zara said, choosing her words carefully. Many species speak kind words before doing cruel things. The sadness in her amber eyes made Jake's chest tighten. What happened to you, Zara, before we found you? Zara was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. My village was peaceful. We were healers and farmers. Children played in the forest streams. Elders taught old stories under the great trees. She paused, her claws extending and retracting unconsciously. Ships came, big ships with weapons. They said they needed workers for distant places. We said no. They took us anyway. Raiders, Jake said grimly. We've heard reports about slavers operating in this sector. They killed my family first, Zara continued, her voice growing flat and emotionless. My mother, my father, my little brother. They said it would make the rest of us easier to control. They were right. Jake felt sick. How many of your people did they take? Hundreds. We were put in different ships. I never saw the others again. Where were they taking you? Fighting rings, Zara said, her lips pulling back to show her teeth. Rich beings like to watch others kill each other for sport. My people are strong and fast. We make good entertainment. Jake understood now why she had attacked them so viciously when they first found her. After everything she had been through, kindness from strangers would seem like just another trap. "How did you escape?" "I didn't," Zara replied. "The ship was attacked by pirates who wanted to steal the cargo. During the fighting, something exploded and damaged the engines. Everyone died except me. I was locked in my cell for days before you found me. Days without food or water. Kethera can survive longer than humans without supplies. But the wound was getting worse. I thought I would die there." Jake reached out slowly and touched her hand. For the first time, she didn't pull away. "You're safe now," he said. "We're going to help you find your people." "My people are dead or scattered across the galaxy," Zara said sadly. "There is no home to return to. Then we'll help you find a new home. Or build one." Zara stared at him with those intense amber eyes. "Why do you care? I am not your species. I attacked you when we first met." "Because it's the right thing to do," Jake said simply. "And because everyone deserves a chance to heal from their wounds. All of them." Over the next few days, Zara's English improved rapidly. She had an excellent memory and seemed eager to learn new words and concepts. Jake discovered that she had been a healer among her people, using a combination of herbal medicine and something she called touch healing. "Show me," Jake said when she mentioned her healing abilities. Zara looked uncertain. "It only works on my people. And it requires ... trust." "What kind of trust?" "Among Kethera, healing touch is sacred. Only family or closest friends may touch during healing. It is." She struggled for the words. "Very personal thing." Jake nodded, understanding. "Like how some human cultures consider certain physical contact taboo, except between married partners." "Yes, similar. When you treated my wounds while I was unconscious, it confused me. Your touch should have felt wrong, invasive. But it felt ... safe. That's probably why you didn't attack me as often as the others." "Yes, my body knew you were healing me, even when my mind wanted to fight." Communications Officer Amy Foster joined them later that day with exciting news. The translation software had made a major breakthrough using Zara's growing vocabulary. "I've been able to decode some of the writing we found on her ship," Amy announced. "The good news is we know where her home planet is located. The bad news is it's over 2 weeks away at maximum warp." "What else did you learn?" Jake asked. "The ships. Logs mention other prison transports. Zara's people were split into groups and sent to different locations. There might be survivors." Zara's ears perked up at this news. "Other Kethera are alive?" "Possibly," Amy said carefully. "The logs are damaged, but I found references to at least 3 other ships with Kethera prisoners." "We have to find them," Zara said urgently, trying to sit up. "Easy," Jake said, gently pushing her back down. "You're still recovering, and we need to figure out where these other ships went." Captain Hayes entered the medical bay at that moment, followed by Commander Jackson and Security Chief Carter. The captain's expression was serious as she approached Zara's bed. "Miss Zara," Captain Hayes said formally, "I understand you can communicate with us now." "Yes, Captain," Zara replied, her posture becoming more alert and defensive. "I want to discuss your situation. We've been debating what to do once you're fully healed." Jake tensed. He had been dreading this conversation. "We have several options," the captain continued. "We can drop you off at the nearest friendly space station. We can take you to Earth, where our xenobiologists can help you integrate into human society. Or we can attempt to locate your homeworld and see if any of your people survived. What do you recommend?" Zara asked carefully. "Honestly, I'm not sure any of those options are safe for you. The slavers who took your people are still operating. In this region, space stations can be dangerous for lone aliens. And Earth, while friendly, might not be the right environment for your species. Then what do you suggest? Captain Hayes was quiet for a moment. There is a fourth option. You could stay aboard this ship. We could use someone with your linguistic abilities and cultural knowledge. The pay isn't much, but you'd have a place to belong while we search for other survivors of your people. Jake felt a surge of hope. He hadn't realized how much he wanted Zara to stay until the captain mentioned it. You would trust me aboard your ship? Zara asked, surprise clear in her voice. Jake trusts you, Captain Hayes replied. And I trust Jake's judgment. Besides, you've had multiple opportunities to escape or cause trouble, and you haven't taken any of them. I would like that very much, Zara said quietly. But I have one condition, which is, when we find other Kethera survivors, we help them too. All of them. Captain Hayes smiled. I think we can arrange that. As the others left to make the necessary arrangements, Jake remained behind with Zara. She was staring out the small window at the stars, her expression thoughtful. Scared? Jake asked. Terrified, Zara admitted, but also hopeful for the first time in months. Is that strange? Not strange at all. It's perfectly human. Zara looked at him with those amber eyes, and Jake saw something new in them. Not just trust, but genuine affection. Jake? Yes? Thank you. For everything. For healing my body and ... And showing me that not all strangers are enemies. Jake smiled. Thank you for letting me help. And for trusting us enough to stay. Outside the window, the stars continued their ancient dance, but now they seemed less cold and distant. They looked like destinations full of possibility, carrying a human ship and its newest crew member toward whatever adventures awaited them in the vast galaxy. Jake had been working for 6 straight hours when the alien female first woke up. Her amber eyes snapped open like someone had flipped a switch, and she immediately tried to sit up. The restraints held her down, but she fought against them with surprising strength for someone who had lost so much blood. Easy, Jake said softly, not moving from his position by the medical console. You're safe. I'm trying to help you. She turned her head toward his voice and snarled. The sound was low and dangerous, like an angry wildcat. Her claws extended automatically, scraping against the metal restraints with sharp clicking sounds. Jake had seen the preliminary blood work results an hour ago. Her body chemistry was similar enough to human that basic medications would work, but different enough that he had to be very careful with dosages. The infection in her shoulder was spreading, and without treatment, she would be dead within days. I know you can't understand me, Jake continued in the same calm voice, but I need to clean that wound. It's going to hurt, but it will help you heal. The alien's eyes tracked his movement as he approached with a medical scanner. When he got within arm's reach, she lunged forward as far as the restraints allowed. Her teeth snapped shut inches from his hand. Okay, message received, Jake said, stepping back. You don't trust me. That's fair. I wouldn't trust strangers either if I were in your position. He went back to his console and pretended to ignore her while he worked. After a few minutes, her struggles became less violent. She was still watching him, but she had stopped trying to break free every few seconds. Jake had learned this technique working with frightened animals during his veterinary training before medical school. Don't make eye contact. Don't make sudden movements, and let them get used to your presence gradually. Your species has interesting bone structure, he said conversationally, studying the scanner readings. Denser than human bones, but more flexible. Built for speed and strength. The muscle fibers in your legs suggest you can probably jump 3 times your height. The alien tilted her head slightly, as if she was trying to understand his words. Her ears swiveled toward him, like radar dishes tracking a signal. Those claws are impressive too. Retractable, like a cat's, but much stronger. I bet they can cut through most materials without much effort. Jake kept talking as he prepared the medical instruments. He had found that many patients, human and otherwise, responded well to a calm, steady voice. It didn't matter if they understood the words. The tone was what mattered. When he approached again, the alien tensed but didn't attack. Progress. I'm going to touch your arm now, Jake said, moving very slowly. Just to check your pulse. I won't hurt you. His fingers barely made contact with her wrist before she jerked away with another snarl. But this time, she didn't try to bite him. Your heart rate is too fast, Jake observed. Probably from stress and blood loss. We need to get that infection under control. He returned to his console and began mixing an antibiotic solution. The alien watched every movement with intense focus. Her breathing was still shallow and rapid, but Jake noticed it slowed down slightly when he wasn't looking directly at her. Chief Security Officer Ben Carter entered the medical bay 3 hours later, fully armed and looking suspicious. How's our prisoner? Ben asked, keeping his distance from the treatment table. She's not a prisoner, Jake corrected automatically. She's a patient, and she's very sick. She tried to kill us earlier, Ben reminded him. Those claws could have taken my head off if my armor hadn't stopped them. The alien's head turned toward Ben, and her lips pulled back to show those sharp teeth again. A low growling sound filled the room. See? Ben said. Still wants to kill. You. She's scared, Jake replied. Look at her body language. The way she holds her shoulders, how her ears are positioned. She's terrified, but trying not to show it. Terrified things can be the most dangerous. Or they can become allies if you treat them right. Ben shook his head. Just be careful, Jake. Don't let your doctor instincts override your survival instincts. After Ben left, Jake noticed the alien had relaxed slightly. She still watched him with those intense amber eyes, but she wasn't growling anymore. You don't like him much, do you? Jake said. I don't blame you. Ben means well, but he sees threats. Everywhere. Occupational hazard when you're in security. Jake began setting up in 4 drip with antibiotics and fluids. The alien tensed when she saw the needle, but she didn't fight when he carefully inserted it into her arm. She just stared at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. There we go, Jake said gently. This will help fight the infection. You should start feeling better in a few hours. The next time the alien woke up, she was alone in the medical bay. Jake had stepped out to grab some food and coffee, but he had left the lights dimmed and classical music playing softly through the speakers. When he returned 20 minutes later, he found her listening to the music with her head tilted to one side. You like Beethoven? Jake asked. That's the 9th Symphony, one of my favorites. The alien's ears swiveled toward him, but she didn't snarl this time. She just watched him with what seemed like curiosity. I always found music helps with healing, Jake continued, checking her 4-line. Something about the rhythm, maybe. Or just the distraction from pain. He noticed her shoulder wound looked better. The swelling had gone down, and the angry red. Color was fading to a healthier pink. The antibiotics were working. You're stronger than I thought, Jake observed. Most humans would still be unconscious with this level of infection. Your immune system is impressive. The alien made a sound that wasn't quite a growl. It was softer, almost like she was trying to communicate. Are you trying to talk to me? Jake asked. I wish I knew your language. We have translation software, but it needs a larger sample of vocabulary to work properly. Communications Officer Amy Foster arrived during Jake's next shift change. She carried a portable language analyzer and looked excited about the challenge. Any luck getting her to vocalize? Amy asked, setting up her equipment. A few sounds, but nothing I could identify as actual words, Jake replied. She's been listening to music for the past hour, Seems to calm her down. Amy began running audio tests, playing different tones and frequencies to see how the alien responded. After an hour of careful work, she made an interesting discovery. Her hearing range is much broader than ours, Amy reported. She can hear sounds well above and below human perception. No wonder she seemed to react to things we couldn't detect. Does that help with translation? Maybe, if her language uses frequency variations we can't naturally hear. Our standard translation protocols might miss important elements. Jake was changing the alien's bandages when she made her first clear attempt at communication. As he gently cleaned the wound site, she looked directly at him and made a series of soft clicking sounds, followed by what sounded like a word. Cathera, she said, her voice rough from disuse. Cathera, Jake repeated carefully. Is that your name, or maybe your species? The alien nodded slightly, which surprised both humans. She understood at least some of their body language. Cathera, she said again, then pointed to herself with one clawed finger. Amy, are you getting this? Jake asked. Recording everything, Amy confirmed, her translator working furiously to analyze the sounds. Over the next several hours, the alien began to relax more noticeably around Jake. She stopped tensing when he approached, and she even allowed him to check her pulse without pulling away. When he brought her water, she drank it without suspicion. Progress, Jake murmured as he updated her medical chart. Definite progress. The real breakthrough came during the night shift. Jake was dozing in his chair beside the treatment table when he heard soft sounds from his patient. She was making the clicking noises again, but slower and more rhythmic. It almost sounded like she was singing. Jake opened his eyes carefully and saw the alien staring at the ceiling, her expression far away. The sounds she was making were hauntingly beautiful, like nothing he had ever heard before. When she noticed he was awake, she stopped immediately and turned away from him. Don't stop, Jake said softly. It was beautiful. Is it a song from your home? The alien looked back at him with those amber eyes, and for the first time, Jake saw something other than fear or anger in them. He saw sadness so deep it made his chest ache. What happened to you? He whispered. Who hurt you so badly that you can't trust anyone trying to help? The alien closed her eyes and turned away again. But she didn't snarl at him, and she didn't try to attack. She just lay there quietly, listening to the hum of the medical equipment and the distant sound of the ship's engines. Jake settled back in his chair and continued his watch. Whatever had happened to this remarkable being, he was determined to help her heal. Not just her physical wounds, but the deeper damage that made her so afraid of kindness. Outside the medical bay, the stars continued their ancient dance through space, carrying two very different species toward an understanding that neither of them could have imagined just days before. The stars looked cold and distant through the bridge windows of the human ship Starbound. Lieutenant Jake Morris finished checking the medical equipment in Bay 3 and walked back toward his quarters. 3 months into their deep space mission, the routine had become second nature. Check supplies, update reports, and try not to think about how far they were from Earth. Jake was 28 years old, with brown hair and tired eyes that had seen too many injuries during his time as a medical officer. He preferred the quiet moments between emergencies, when he could focus on research or simply watch the stars drift by. Tonight felt different, though. Something in the air made him uneasy. The alarm broke the silence with sharp, urgent beeps that echoed through every corridor of the ship. Jake dropped his coffee mug and ran toward the bridge. Captain Lisa Hayes stood at the center console, her blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail as she studied the screens around her. What do we have? Jake asked as he reached the command area. Unknown vessel, dead in space about 2 kilometers off our port side. Captain Hayes replied without looking away from the display. Sensors show it's badly damaged. Could be survivors. Aboard, Commander Pete Jackson, the ship's first officer, pointed to the tactical screen. The design doesn't match anything in our databases. Definitely not human construction. Hull breaches in multiple sections. Power readings are almost zero. Jake felt his medical training kick in automatically. If there were survivors, they would. Need help fast. Any life signs? Unclear, said Communications Officer Amy Foster from her station. The ship's hull is made of some kind of material that blocks our deep scans. We're getting faint readings, but nothing definite. Captain Hayes made her decision quickly. We can't leave potential survivors to die in space. Pete put together an away team. Full environmental suits and medical gear. Jake, you're with them. Yes, ma'am, Jake replied, already thinking about what supplies he would need. Unknown alien. Physiology meant bringing everything he could carry. 20 minutes later, Jake found himself floating in space beside Commander Jackson and Security Chief Ben Carter. The alien ship looked even stranger up close. Its hull had a flowing organic design that seemed almost grown rather than built. Scorch marks and twisted metal showed where weapons had torn through the outer plating. There's an airlock that looks intact, Ben reported through the comm system. I can probably get it open. The three men carefully approached the damaged vessel. Ben worked on the airlock controls while Jake and Pete kept watch. After several tense minutes, the outer door slid open with a grinding sound of damaged machinery. Inside, the ship was dark and cold. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on walls that curved in unnatural ways. The air was thin but breathable, though it smelled of smoke and something else Jake couldn't identify. Life support is barely functioning, Pete observed, checking his scanner. We need to work fast. They moved deeper into the ship, following a central corridor that led toward what seemed to be the main section. Jake noticed that the walls were covered in symbols he had never seen before. The writing looked almost like scratches or claw marks. Over here, Ben called from ahead. Found something. Jake and Pete hurried to catch up. Ben stood before a heavy door with small windows near the top. Through the thick glass, they could see into what was clearly a holding cell. And inside that cell was something that made all three men stop and stare. The creature was roughly humanoid, but definitely not human. She stood about 6 feet tall, with silver fur covering most of her body. Her ears were pointed and mobile, constantly, twitching as she listened to sounds they couldn't hear. Her face was angular and fierce, with amber eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. Tribal markings covered her arms and face in intricate patterns that looked like they had been carved rather than tattooed. Is she? Jake started to ask. Alive. Yes, Pete confirmed, checking his scanner. Definitely alive, and definitely not happy to see us. The alien female had noticed them through the window. She crouched low, her lips pulled back to show teeth that were far too sharp. Long claws extended from her fingers as she prepared to fight. Even through the thick door, they could hear a low, growling sound. Look at her shoulder, Jake said, pointing to a dark stain on her left side. She's injured. That's blood. Ben shook. His head. Could be anything. We don't know what their blood looks like. It's blood, Jake insisted. Look at how she's favoring that side. The wound is deep and probably infected. She needs medical attention. She needs to stay locked up, Ben replied firmly. Look at those claws, those teeth. She could kill all three of us before we could blink. Pete was studying the control panel. Beside the door, this looks like it was a prison transport. These are detention cells, not crew quarters. The question is, was she a prisoner or a guard? The alien female moved closer to the window, her eyes fixed on Jake. There was intelligence there, and pain, and something else that made his medical instincts take over completely. "She's hurt," Jake said again. "Look at how she's breathing. Short, shallow breaths. That's shock from blood loss. If we don't treat her soon, she's going to die." "Maybe that's for the best," Ben muttered. "We have no idea what she's capable of." "We're not leaving an injured being to die," Jake said firmly. "That's not who we are." Pete made the decision. "We take her back to the ship. Medical bay has containment. Fields if she gets violent. Jake, can you treat her?" "I can try. I've dealt with non-human physiology before, though nothing quite like this." Ben sighed, but started working on the door controls. "This is a mistake. A big mistake." The lock disengaged with a heavy click. The moment the door began to slide open, the alien female attacked. She moved faster than any of them expected, crossing. A small cell in a single leap. Her claws raked across Ben's chest plate, leaving deep scratches in the metal. "Stun her." Pete shouted. Ben's weapon discharged with a blue flash. The energy beam caught the alien in mid-lunge, sending her crashing to the floor. She tried to get up, snarling and snapping at them, but the stun effect was taking hold. Her movements became slower and less coordinated. "She's fighting the stun," Ben observed with professional admiration. "Tough as nails." Jake was already beside her, his medical scanner out and running. Heart rate is elevated, but steady. Brain. Activity is normal for her species, whatever that is. The shoulder wound is worse than I thought. Definite infection, possible nerve damage. The alien's eyes focused on Jake as he worked. Even stunned and injured, there was no fear in those amber eyes. Only rage and defiance. "Easy," Jake said softly, not sure if she could understand him. "We're here to help." She tried to swipe at him with her claws, but the stun had weakened her too much. The gesture was almost half-hearted. "She'll be out in a few minutes," Ben said. "We should get her to the ship before she recovers." They carefully lifted the unconscious alien and made their way back through the damaged ship. Jake found himself looking down at her face as they moved. Even unconscious, she looked ready to fight. But there was something else there, too. Something that reminded him of wounded animals he had treated as a child. Fear hiding behind the aggression. Back aboard the Starbound, they placed her in the medical bay's secure treatment room. Force fields would keep her contained while allowing Jake to work. As he prepared his instruments, Jake wondered what they had gotten themselves into. The alien female lay still on the treatment table, her silver fur matted with dried blood. Her breathing was still shallow and irregular. Whatever had happened to her, it had been recent and violent. "I'll need to sedate her properly before I can treat that wound," Jake told the others. "And I'll need to run some tests to make sure. Our medications won't poison her." "How long?" Pete asked. "Hours, maybe days. I'm working blind here." Captain Hayes entered the medical bay, her expression serious. "Report." Pete quickly explained what they had found. The captain listened without interruption, her eyes fixed on the alien female. "Recommendations?" she asked when Pete finished. "She's dangerous," Ben said immediately. "Those claws could cut through hull plating. We should keep her sedated until we can transfer her to a proper facility." "She's injured and possibly traumatized," Jake countered. "She needs medical care, not more imprisonment." Captain Hayes was quiet for a long moment, studying the unconscious alien. "Do what you can for her, Jake, but Ben, I want security teams on standby at all times. If she becomes a threat to this ship or crew, we end this quickly." "Understood," both men replied. As the others left, Jake found himself alone with his patient. He began setting up his equipment, talking softly as he worked even though she couldn't hear him. "I don't know what happened to you," he said, checking her vital signs, "but you're safe now." I'm going to fix that shoulder, and then we'll figure out what comes next." The alien's eyes remained closed, but Jake thought he saw her ears twitch slightly at the sound of his voice. Maybe it was just his imagination. Maybe not. Either way, he had work to do.